Monday, July 16th, coming to you live from Seoul, I'm Shin Se-min, and these are the stories we're following at this hour. The World Cup final, France lifting the famous golden trophy aloft after a pulsating 4-2 win over Croatia, locking in its second World Cup in 20 years. Tens of thousands of supporters out on streets cheering that the nation is now firmly a football superpower. North Korea and the U.S. hold talks on the return of more than 5,000 remains of U.S. servicemen still missing from the Korean War. It marks the first time in 9 years that the two sides have held general-level military talks. Eyes are glued to the huge Helsinki summit between Presidents Donald Trump of the U.S. and Vladimir Putin of Russia. With no set agenda, pundits say the summit could veer between spectacle and substance. We start this morning with the 2018 World Cup in Russia. France are now the new champions of the world, putting on a thrilling display to beat Croatia 4-2 in Moscow. For more on the high-scoring affair, our Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
The stage was set at Moscow's packed Luzhniki Stadium for the 2018 World Cup final as France took on Croatia for a chance at their second World Cup win. Croatia off to a poor start in the 18th minute when their semi-final hero Mario Mandzukic flicked in Antoine Griezmann's free kick for an own goal, giving France the early first-half lead. That lead was quickly erased, though, in the 28th minute when Croatian midfielder Ivan Perisic found the back of the net to level things at 1 apiece. But France continued to dominate, with Antoine Griezmann taking advantage of a penalty called against Croatia to slot home the spot kick for a 2-1 lead going into the second half. The French continued to throw everything at Croatia as Paul Pogba smashed in France's third goal before their 19-year-old sensation Kylian Mbappe added another in the 65th minute for the 4-1 lead. Croatia would add a consolation goal in the 69th minute, but clock would run out before Croatia could pull off any miracles. The 4-2 victory means France win their second World Cup and their first since their 3-0 demolition of Brazil in the 1998 France World Cup final. A huge moment for the French side, especially for the head coach of Les Bleus, Didier Deschamps, who becomes just the third person to win the trophy as a player and a manager. Fans are already eager for the next World Cup, the 2022 Qatar World Cup, which will see the tournament kick off in November for the first time ever. And while the decision has already been made to expand the World Cup to 48 teams from the current 32 for the 2026 World Cup, FIFA will continue to discuss whether this format will be introduced first in Qatar. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And thousands of French fans filled the Champs-Élysées Avenue in central Paris to watch their team in the World Cup final and celebrate their victory. Our Young takes us there.
Tens of thousands of French fans gathered along the Champs-Élysées Avenue and near the Eiffel Tower in Paris to cheer for their national team. The French fans went wild as their team scored 4 goals against Croatia. They waved their national flag and sung the French national anthem together. The final whistle blows to give France their second World Cup title, 20 years since they first won the World Cup on home soil in 1998.
We can't explain it. There are no words because we're supposed to live it just once in our life, and now it's the second time, so we're on cloud 9.
The upbeat mood was everywhere.
We are all together singing, dancing, even if we don't know each other. It's great. It's putting us together and it feels good. It really does.
This is extraordinary. It feels good. Finally, the second star. Bravo, France. It's a relief. We are feeling relief. It's the second youngest team at the World Cup and we are very proud of them.
French President Emmanuel Macron will invite the national team to the Élysée Palace on Monday local time to congratulate them on their victory. Before meeting the president, the national team will have a victory parade from Arc de Triomphe to the Place de la Concorde. Choo Shin-soo, Arirang News.
And shifting our focus, South Korea's top economic and monetary policymakers met this morning to talk and discuss a wide range of issues like the growing trade tensions between the U.S. and China, as well as the country's grim real economy figures, including the recent job numbers. We have our correspondent Kim Hae-sang watching that meeting closely. Hae-sang, we know it was a closed-door meeting, but have we learned any details yet?
Hi, Taemin. Yes, moments ago we heard from Finance Minister Kim Dong-yeon on the latest increase of minimum wage hike of 10.9% for 2019, saying he worries the increase may be a burden on running the economy in the latter half of this year. The comment following a meeting with the Bank of Korea Governor Lee Ju-yeol this morning, where the two met for the first time in 3 months. It also comes at a critical time, just days after the BOK held its key rate steady for July, lowered its growth forecast for this year by 0.1% to 2.9%, and 2 days before the Finance Ministry is set to release its economic policy measures for the second half. The meeting lasted longer than scheduled by about 30 minutes, ending at 9:25-ish, a head tip to the wide range of economic issues South Korea is facing right now, from the U.S.-China trade spat, poor job figures, high unemployment, to the hefty minimum wage hike. At the press briefing, the finance minister and BOK chief said they shared concerns on the growing downside risk to the economy in the second half, particularly the escalating trade tensions between Washington and Beijing. Given that China and the U.S. are the nation's top two trading partners that account for 37% of Korea's exports, the two agreed to evaluate how the trade spat affects the Korean economy and cooperate through a mix of monetary and fiscal policies as preemptive measures to sustain stable domestic growth. Domestically, they pointed to weak job creation as a risk. Between January and June, a monthly average of 142,000 new jobs were added, the slowest growth since the 2008 global financial crisis. Other senior officials from the Finance Ministry and the BOK attended the meeting, and both sides agreed to share information and work closely in seeing how the minimum wage hike could affect the job market. That's all I have for now. Back to you, Taemin.
Thank you, our Kim Hae-sang, with the latest on the talks between the two economic and monetary policymakers. The government officials and members of the National Assembly are prepping to address concerns regarding the minimum wage hike for next year and the new 52-hour work week initiative. The Korea Federation of SMEs says Minister of SMEs and Startups Hong Jong-hak will hold a meeting on Monday with representatives of small and medium businesses, which have voiced strong opposition to the 10.9% wage floor increase. Hong will also hear the opinions of small business owners themselves and talk ways to cushion the blow of the government's recent decisions. 5 lawmakers also plan to hold talks with a nationwide alliance of convenience stores, which are strongly opposed to a hefty increase in the minimum wage. The nation's Federation of Small Businesses are also expected to seek out solutions, including a system that differentiates wages according to the size of the businesses. And turning now to the Sunday's big meeting between North Korea and the U.S. on the return of the remains of American soldiers who are still unaccounted for from the Korean War. The talks appear to have went well, with some concrete results made on the search and return of the remains. Our Park Hee-jun with more.
North Korea and the U.S. have agreed to resume joint field operations to search for the remains of more than 5,000 American troops who were killed during the Korean War, a result of their meeting on Sunday at the inter-Korean border. Following the meeting, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in a statement that the talks were productive and cooperative and resulted in firm commitments. U.S. President Donald Trump also took to Twitter to hail the progress being made with North Korea. The repatriation of American soldiers was one of the agreements reached during the Kim-Trump summit in Singapore in mid-June. Talks to implement the agreement were originally planned for Thursday last week, but were delayed after the North Korean representatives failed to show up. They later called the UN command, asking to reschedule for Sunday and to involve military generals, which resulted in the first general-level military talks between the two sides in 9 years. And on Monday, working-level talks are set to take place to sort out the details of the repatriation, including the transfer of remains that have already been collected in North Korea. The United States already has 100 wooden caskets waiting at Panmunjom to carry the soldiers' remains back home. Park Ki-jun, Arirang News.
Washington's top national security advisor has clarified that President Trump's tweet that said there's no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea is within the context that Pyongyang lives up to its denuclearization commitments. That is what John Bolton said during an interview with ABC News on Sunday when asked about Trump's tweet, which was posted following the historic Singapore summit between North Korea and the U.S. Meanwhile, a White House canceled Bolton's scheduled interview with CNN. The White House press secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said this was because of a CNN reporter's, quote, bad behavior during a joint press conference in the UK. Sports diplomacy is continuing to play a crucial role in facilitating dialogue between the two Koreas who are seeking the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. The two have agreed to form joint teams for an international tournament which begins this Tuesday in South Korea. Our Kim Hyo-sun tells us more.
North Korean table tennis players arrived in South Korea on Sunday to compete in an international tournament, and the two Koreas have agreed to form joint doubles teams. The North's 25-member squad includes the 16 players who will take part in the International Table Tennis Federation World Tour Platinum Korea Open, which begins in the central city of Daejeon on Tuesday. This marks the third time since 1991 that the two sides have formed joint table tennis teams, and the first time the North competes in an International Table Tennis Federation event. During the 6-day tournament, the two Koreas will form united teams in men's, women's, and mixed doubles.
The two Koreas will become one through table tennis and sports, and the two will compete at the Korean Open together in many different ways. This is hugely progressive. I expect to see the Korean players hold hands and play wonderful games.
According to the Korea Table Tennis Association, South Korea's Lee Sang-soo will pair up with the North's Park Shin-hyuk for the men's doubles event, and in the women's doubles, it will be Seo Hyo-won and Kim Song-hee. For mixed doubles, South Korea's Jang Woo-jin and North's Cha Hyo-sim will play together, as will Yoo Eun-chung and Park Shin-hyuk.
It's really a dream come true. I've always hoped to see a unified team since I was a member of the unified team last time. And I also hope to have more sport exchanges with the North.
The so-called ping-pong diplomacy, among other sports exchanges, comes as the two Koreas seek ways to mend their ties and achieve the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. The two Koreas have also agreed to forge combined teams in some sports during the 2018 Asian Games in Jakarta that start next month. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has renewed his criticism of America's European allies, describing the EU as a foe alongside China and Russia. For more on this and other news around the world, we turn to our Do Aram at the News Center. So, Aram, what exactly did President Trump say?
Well, Simon, in an interview with CBS, which aired on Sunday, Trump likened the European Union to China and Russia as America's economic adversaries. But he stressed that he didn't mean the EU was bad, just that it was competitive.
I think the European Union is a foe, what they do to us in trade. Now, you wouldn't think of the European Union, but they're a foe. Russia's a foe in certain respects. China's a foe economically, certainly. They're a foe. But that doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean anything. It means that they're competitors. They want to do well, and we want to do well.
He pointed out the EU had been taking advantage of the US in terms of trade and again accused NATO allies of not paying their fair share for defence. EU Council President Donald Tusk tweeted a response using one of President Trump's famous phrases. He wrote, "America and the EU are best friends. Whoever says we are foes is spreading fake news." Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Theresa May said President Trump told her to sue the EU as part of her Brexit strategy. However, she said that was not going to happen and that negotiations will continue with the British public's best interests in mind. Meanwhile, President Trump's labeling of Russia as a foe came on the eve of his first official summit with President Vladimir Putin. The two are scheduled to meet on Monday in Helsinki. Trump arrived in the Finnish capital on Sunday after a round of golf at his private club in Scotland. In Sunday's CBS interview, President Trump struck a very pessimistic tone regarding the upcoming meeting.
I don't expect anything. I frankly don't expect. I go in with very low expectations. I think that getting along with Russia is a good thing, but it's possible we won't. I think we're greatly hampered by this whole witch hunt that's going on in the United States, the Russian witch hunt.
On Friday, U.S. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein announced that 12 Russians were indicted for alleged hacking during the 2016 U.S. elections. Trump said he may raise this issue with Putin and may even ask him to have the dozen be sent to America. The 12 boys who were rescued from a flooded cave in Thailand have paid tribute to the former Thai Navy SEAL who died during the rescue operation. Saman Guman lost his life just over a week ago while delivering oxygen tanks to the trapped group. The tearful boys and their football coach were only told of the tragedy on Saturday after doctors deemed they were strong enough to process the news. They expressed their condolences by writing messages on a portrait of the former Navy SEAL. The group are expected to be discharged from hospital on Thursday. Officials in Afghanistan say at least 7 people have been killed in a suicide bomb attack in Kabul. More than 15 others are said to have been injured. The attacker reportedly blew himself up on Sunday just outside the gates of a government building during evening rush hour. There was no immediate claim of responsibility, but it was the second time in as many months that the Ministry of Rural Rehabilitation and Development was targeted. It also follows a series of attacks in the Afghan capital and other cities, including Jalalabad, most of which have been claimed by the Islamic State group.
The unbelievable ride continues for the choo-choo train as Choo Shin-soo extended his on-base streak to 51 games on Sunday. With the Texas Rangers playing against the Baltimore Orioles, the Korean slugger led off the game against Miguel Castro in the first inning of the game and drew a walk-in 6 pitches to extend his incredible on-base streak. Now, the streak is the longest since Kevin Miller reached first base safely in 52 games during the 2007 season. And now to some golf news. Korean-born American Michael Kim shot a final round 66 to win the John Deere Classic on Sunday by a record-setting 8 strokes, picking up his first victory on the PGA Tour in the process. The 25-year-old finished the 27 under 257, breaking Steve Stricker's tournament record from 2010 by a single shot. Kim also moved to 56th in the FedEx Cup standings and won himself a place at next week's British Open Championship. Tennis star Novak Djokovic is a major champion once again, winning his first Grand Slam title in 2 years on Sunday. Facing off against Kevin Anderson in the men's Wimbledon final, the now 4-time Wimbledon winner swept the South African in straight sets for his 13th Grand Slam title in his career. The Serbian has made the Wimbledon finals 5 times in his career, only losing to Britain's Andy Murray in 2013. And in some good news for lazy indoor gardeners, South Korean researchers have developed a flower pot that waters its own contents. The self-watering pots are slated to be in stores later this year. Our Cho Sung-min tells us more.
The Rural Development Administration says it has developed a flower pot that can water itself. The way the pot works is similar to a dehumidifier. It absorbs water vapor in the air, condenses it, and supplies it to whatever plants it contains. Each one is embedded with a cooling plate, a temperature control device, and a cooling fan. Researchers say water starts to condense when the temperature of the cooling plate is brought down below the dew point.
First, the temperature controller cools the plate down below the dew point. The fan then sucks in moisture and the vapor is converted to liquid.
According to the researchers, the pot can fully hydrate the plants it holds all year round, generating up to 70 cubic centimeters of water in summer and around 40 cubic centimeters in winter. Scientists say the pots would be most useful for people who want to grow plants in their homes but are either too busy or always forget to water them.
As a person who loves plants but frequently goes out of town, I would love to have these pots since I wouldn't have to water them.
The administration says they are currently working to lower the production cost of the pots and hopefully get the final product onto the market in the latter half of this year. Choo Sung-min, Arirang News.
5 West Sea islands administered by Korea are home to unique geological formations created 1 billion years ago. Now, these islands are in the limelight as candidates for national geoparks. Our Park Se-young has more.
This rock formation named Tumujin on Pyongyang Island is a result of sandy sediments being heated and pressured 1 billion years ago. The island is also home to basaltic rocks, which have weathered and turned yellow due to their high magnesium content. The Kongdor seashore is covered by round pebbles formed by the breakdown of quartzite in the soil. Sagot Beach was once used as a natural airstrip due to the hardness of the sand. And Socheongdo Island, where Korea's oldest fossils have been found, is home to the Punbawi rock, named for its white chalky color. The different layers and wave patterns of rocks at Nongya Beach provide a window back through 1 billion years of history. The Seopungbaji rock in Taechongdo Island was named as such because it blocks the wind that blows from China to the West Sea.
Pyeongdo, Taechongdo, and Socheongdo Islands are not widely known for their rich geological heritage. We will work towards sustainable development by getting them certified as national geoparks in July.
10 sites on the 5 islands will also apply to become UNESCO Global Geopark sites. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Good morning. It's going to be hotter than Sunday under burning sunshine today. So heat wave alerts have spread to pretty much every part of Korea, with southern regions feeling nearly 40 degrees Celsius this afternoon. So the heat will reach its peak today. Seoul will also have blistering heat of 34 degrees Celsius. So let us take good care of ourselves. UV rays and ozone levels will reach very high levels as well. So be sure to stay healthy by resting in a cool, shady place and drinking plenty of water. More tough summer weather is in the forecast with no relief expected for the time being. That's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
And that is it for us at the hour on Arirang News, but keep it tuned for more news updates coming up at noon Korea time. Thank you for watching and have a great start of your day and the week ahead.
Literally speaking, the essence of love in a short poem. Grass flower, pretty with a close look, lovely with a long gaze. So are you.
우리가 너무 잘 살고 너무 우리가 빠르게 속도에 빠져서 그래요. 그리고 상대적 비교에 빠져서 그래요. 자기를 살펴보고 자기를 높여주고 하는 마음이 좀 부족하지요. 우리는 다 같이 꽃입니다. 꽃에 맞도록 아름답고 향기롭고 예쁘게 나는 괜찮다. 나는 앞으로 잘 살 것이다. 나는 충분히 사랑받고 이런 생각을 하고 그걸 잊지 마시기 바랍니다.
Like a grass flower, you are more than precious. 아리랑.
Naengmyeon, cold buckwheat noodles.